Hello everyone and welcome to a new video, and this one is another real life video, and this time I'm going to take you on a little journey in a practice session I had about 5 years ago now in the Formula Ford season I did, or half season I did, and this one is going to be in a wet practice session at Silverstone. Now I know it's not a race, so it's not maybe as interesting as you may think, but it was my first ever wet session in a race car of any sort, so plenty of karting over the years, plenty of wet karting over the years, a lot of it done on slick tyres as well, which I thought was really helpful for my future driving ability in the wet. But this is on a different level altogether. There was so much more water, everything was moving faster. You were literally blind at points going down the straight, and it was a bit concerning, but it was a whole new experience altogether, and I just really wanted to get it up as a video and show you and tell you how I was feeling. But before we start, just want to say big up you lot, 'cause, you know, the people that watch these in real life videos, it's sick. I couldn't believe the amount of interaction and views they get, so there's going to be plenty of it throughout 2020 and hopefully in the future. So yeah, just big thanks really. Okay then, it's time to get wet. So, actually, I should probably redo that audio. That sounded very, very weird. What I meant was, we're about to get, you know, into a session that's very wet, not wet. Okay, I'm just going to shut up. Okay, so here you can see we're pulling out the pit lane, and I'm just being super careful. I am understanding that this is going to be ridiculously slippy. The tyres, they're not slicks, they're not wets, they're just like a compound of tyre that you use in the dry and the wet in Formula Ford. There's no given dry or wet tyre, so that's a challenge in itself. But again, karting on slicks for years on years will help me out in this situation. And you can see we've got a car to the right there we just passed straight away. Obviously he's taking it very easy compared to me. And I'd done some dry laps on this track. I did one test before, but this was a whole new challenge altogether. I knew what to do. I knew that there was wet lines as opposed to dry lines, and you'd obviously have to brake earlier and be smoother, but it's still, stuff naturally catches you out. And you can see there's cars, there's no one really around us, and the visibility is still very bad. So that took a lot of getting used to be honest. I was squinting for the entirety of the session, if I'm brutally honest. But you'll notice, or at the end of the session, the engineers and the people in the team were very impressed, and it's because relative to the other drivers, compared to the dry, in the wet, I was more of a front runner. I was only 2 tenths off the fastest time. I think I was like 4th overall in the session, and that because the whole day was wet. As you can see at Silverstone, it was just a really, well, standard day for the UK, to be honest. My pace was a lot stronger in these conditions, and it must have been from the karting. So we're already getting near a reasonable limit, so I felt pretty comfortable. I was just in my mind consciously taking it very easy. You can see there's a car going into turn 2. That's a historic Formula Ford by the looks of it, not one of these modern ones that I'm driving. And we go up the outside during the straight, and then we brake fairly late, getting more comfortable as every lap comes along. There's a bit more tyre temp, some heat into the brakes as well, so naturally, like any session in anything, you get quicker as the session goes on. But I mean, there's some weird aspects to the driving of the lap. I thought it would be just use the dry lines but take it easier, but it literally was the fastest way around the track was, say at Luffield for example, you saw there, we were right on the edge of the track on the outside, and you could hold half throttle on throughout the entirety of the corner, because it's quite a long corner, especially in a car this slow. And same with cops, to be honest, round the outside, hold half throttle and get on the power as early as possible without any wheel spin. So we got the hang of it. It's just, you know, those final few tenths would have been in bravery in braking zones, or maybe even heel and toe, because I think I was heeling and towing, but I could have done it a lot better. The technique itself was quite new to me at the time, and it's not something you can just go out and pick up within 30 seconds. It takes a lot of work, and I was still getting used to it. But, you know, if I went back in now, as I always say in these videos, I'd be a lot faster, I'd be more used to the technique, and that's because you can practice it on the sim. So I've effectively mastered the heel and toe technique really on the sim. And that's another aspect of this gamer to racer kind of story is, you know, time and time again it shows that the sim is obviously beneficial. And I think I saw an article in the Daily Mirror or something the other day, games make you a worse driver or something, and it's just like, really? It's absolute lunacy. Everyone knows it's the other way around. So you can see we're in traffic right now. We're passing quite a few cars. We're following, I think that may be I don't know what car it is. I was going to say a Cliff Dempsey car, but I can't remember, if I'm brutally honest. We're a bit all over the place, but that is how it is in the wet, to be honest. Using all the mechanical grip the car offers, and we're running quite a soft setup as it's wet. So the reason for that is, if you don't know, it's because you can get a lot more traction from the rear wheels, which is where obviously all the traction goes to, because it's a rear-wheel drive car, with a softer setup because the car flexes in certain ways where the tyres can dig into the tarmac a bit better. If it was stiff, we'd just be ice skating all over the shop. I mean, it looks like we are anyway, but you can see in turn 1 there, loads of understeer mid-corner, which is kind of what you want in the wet, because it means you can get on the power a bit earlier as the car's a little bit more planted. And then you can see that at turn 1, that yellow car goes straight off on the exit and straight through a puddle, and we overtake him as well. So as I say, it's a practice session, it doesn't matter, but it's still good to see where we are relative to the pack, because the race weekend, this was the Friday and the race day was on the Saturday, and qualifying and everything, so I thought it would have rained on the Saturday. The forecast said it was going to rain, so this was vitally important information. What happened was, as you saw from my last video, it was dry the whole day, so this was kind of a useless day in many respects, but got me a lot of experience in the wet, which is invaluable really. Okay, then you see on the exit of Luffield there's an F4 car that's just passed us, obviously with more downforce, a bit more power on the straights because it's turbocharged, and it was called the MSA Formula at the time, now it's called British F4. That's kind of checked out, and there's a heap of cars in front of us on the straight. You can see absolutely nothing. The camera's actually a bit generous, you can see a bit more on the camera than I could in real life, and we just took it very easy into cops there, but got on the dry line for a split second there mid-corner and it just spat us out onto the exit. So that car with the downforce in the wet is going to be even quicker relative to us compared to in the dry, just because the downforce in these conditions really helps with grip, especially in corners like cops and stuff where you are actually going quite fast. But we're actually nearing to the end of the session now, and there's quite a bit of traffic. We're still behind that white car, who in turn was a front runner over the course of the weekend, so to be with him for the whole session was really, really good. And you can see that red light on the bridge was the red flag, so just fortunate enough really that could have ended in a horrendous accident, to be honest, given we couldn't see anything. But the red flag, obviously someone crashed somewhere, I don't know where. I think it may have been on the exit of Luffield, to be fair, if we have a quick look, but that means we've got to come in on the days like this, on race days or practice days. There you go, there's a car there on the exit and the gravel. There's so many red flags, it's ridiculous. You'd be lucky to get 10 minutes done without a red flag occurring, because people are going off all the time. There's so many cars, and just proportions mean that somebody eventually is going to go off somewhere sort of dangerous, and if it's sort of dangerous, then rightly so, you've got to come in and the incident's got to be sorted. So you can't have repeats of stuff like, you know, Jules Bianchi at Suzuka, etc. So we pull into the pit lane, into our little garage spot. We're near the front of the pit lane, to be fair, and I think that was session 1 of 4. So over the course of the day, I just got more used to those conditions and the car, and eventually all day really, we were on the pace, so or just off the very front runners, so that's really positive. And unfortunately I couldn't do any more wet sessions in the Formula Ford, but as I say, if I went back now, I'd be even a little bit faster through the sim racing route that I've taken. So what I'll do is I'll run you through one of the faster laps I did in the very wet conditions throughout the day. So into turn 1 in 4th gear, just roll it in on the outside line, and then kind of as soon as you can see the exit, get on the power, because you're in 4th gear, which is the highest gear, so 4-speed gearbox, you won't get too much wheel spin, you can kind of carry the speed. There's a bit of traffic to the right there, but then for this next left-right on the national circuit at Silverstone, just don't really brake so much, just ease on the brake, but kind of let it coast into the corner and go down the gears to get the engine braking to slow the car down. That's kind of the most effective way I found in the wet to make it work. And then on the straight you can't really see too much, as there's a car like 3 seconds away in the distance, so the spray's getting in the way quite a lot. And then there is a braking marker, I can't tell you where it is, but into turn 3 there, or turn 4 even, we really use all the track there, and we were centimetres from going onto the grass, and if you get on the grass you're kind of screwed. And then because for Brooklands we shifted down to 2nd gear, we leave it in 2nd for Luffield as well, roll it all the way up to the outside of the track, be on half throttle throughout the outside of the corner or mid corner, and then on the exit stamp the throttle in 2nd gear, get a good exit up to 3rd, and then up to 4th I believe before this kink, or no, we leave it in 3rd there, so yeah, up to 4th mid corner. That kink that would usually be flat in an F1 car and all the games and stuff, it's so tricky in the wet in this car. You'd think it'd be easy, but that was one of the most difficult corners because it's quite high speed, and if you get it wrong you're in the barrier on the right hand side. So that was one of the faster laps in the wet. So later on in the day, I think it was the last session of the day, going into turn 2 and turn 3, as normal, taking a slightly wide line, and then mid corner we get a nice smack from the right hand side of the car, and what happened is, you can't really see from that angle, is one of the cars, I think it was a historic Formula Ford, went on the inside, understeered straight into our rear right corner and went straight through the rad, so water was basically pissing everywhere, and I was wet, obviously a bit angry, and yeah, that's money, you know, that's costing money. So that was going through my head, to be honest, that my mum and dad, obviously, who were funding it, were going to have to pay for that. So that is the real frustrating thing. You see the car, his wheel there mounted on the side of our car. It wasn't a horrendous accident, you know, obviously you saw that, but it's still an unnecessary one on a practice day where just before the race weekend, you don't want that to happen. You want to end it, you know, clean car, no damage, and on pace. So we had the on pace bit, we just ended up having a little bit of a donk towards the end of the day. So yeah, the recovery vehicle got us, it towed me back, and yeah, that was an experience in itself, first time being towed back after an accident. So yeah, one for the memory book, I suppose. But again, that was my first day in the wet in a race car. It was quite an up and down day, good pace, lots learned, and just ended on a little bit of a bad note. But I hope I conveyed all the emotions and stuff I felt throughout the day as best I could. But yeah, I suppose standard stuff. Like the video, comment, appreciate that as always. Sub to the channel if you really liked it. But I guess until the next video, I'll see you soon.